So today I'm going to teach you about the TVM Solver. So this is a super powerful financial calculator that you have built right into your calculator. Now, hopefully you have one of these TI-84s. If you don't, we have put one on your iPad. All you have to do is go into the Schoology course and find the folder that says Need a Calculator, and you just basically have to hit enter a few times, and then there's a little calculator icon. You click on that, and it's an emulator of the TI-84. So ask your teacher how to get a hold of a TI-84 right now. So we'll just pause the video here for a second and see if you've got a TI-84 calculator or the emulator for it through your iPad. Okay, hopefully you've got that in front of you now. So I'm going to show you where this program is on your calculator. This is one you could actually use for the rest of your life. It is really powerful. So here's where you would find it. The first button you're going to want to click is this one for apps. And if you had a whole bunch of different applications, where would you put your best ones? Well, at the very top of the menu, right? So you click on the first one. If you choose hit the one button, or you arrow and hit enter on the one, that'll allow you to get into the finance apps. And then of those, they have multiple finance apps, but the number one choice, as in must be their best, is the TVM Solver. And that TVM stands for Time Value of Money. Think about it. If I was going to give you $1 million, would you rather have it today or 100 years from now? We'd be like, well, of course I want it today. Same thing happens when a lottery winner wins the lottery. They may win $50 million, but they don't get it on the first day. If they want it early like that, they have to take a much smaller amount because there's a time value to money. And money you're going to get in the future is generally not as good as money you can have right now. All right, now hopefully you have found this. This is what opens up when you get the TVM Solver up. And the first thing you'll notice is this top one is N, and that's the number of periods of time. Typically we do this in months. If you're going to do it in months, you have to change this one down here, payments per year, to 12. Almost every bill you have as an adult is a monthly bill. This C/Y should always be the same. So if you do 12 payments per year, you do 12 compoundings per year. Interest, you're either going to pay interest or earn interest. And that could be investment income, or it could be you're paying because you're borrowing money from a bank. The PV is the present value. That's the present value of the thing. This scenario I have up right here has us borrowing $300,000 to be able to get a loan to buy a house. And we're going to pay 3% interest. And we're going to do that for 360 months. And I don't just have that memorized. What I did is on this line, I actually typed in 30 years times 12, and it'll actually do the math for you. I mean, it is a calculator after all, right? So if you type in 30 times 12 right on this line, it figures out that it's 360. That prevents you from having to leave the app, go do math, and come back. So, all right, next up is the payment. Now you have to have something in here. The calculator won't let you move on to the next thing. So if you don't know what that is, you would put in 0, and then you let the calculator calculate it for you, and that's where you would do solving, alpha solve. But we'll get to that later. Next up is the future value. Now, if you're borrowing money, you borrowed $300,000 to buy a house, the future value is what you want that loan to be worth in the future. And you want it to be paid off? You want it to be 0. You want to not owe anybody any money anymore. Okay, so this future value would be 0 if it's a loan. If you're investing money because you want to be financially secure someday, then your future value might be what you'd calculate and see how much money would I have if I saved $400 a month. On this last one, always choose end. You make your payments at the end of the month. That's the standard that the calculator uses. So we'll always use our payments under end. All right, so there's a basic tour of what's on this first screen. Now, let's actually explain this scenario. You're borrowing $300,000, so I'd like you to put that right here on the present value. That's money that the bank is going to give you. They'll give you $300,000. You just have to pay them back, right? So you can enter $300,000 right there. Let's say that you're paying 3% interest. If you've got good credit, you could get a 30-year loan for 3% interest right now. This right here is where you would, again, you can just type 360 because I've told you what it is, but you could have put in 12 months a year times 30 years, and it would have calculated the 360 for you. Don't type this one in. We will let the calculator figure that one up for us. So in the meantime, just put a 0 under payment. Future value, we also want that to be 0 because remember, we're borrowing this money, so we want to pay it off. So right now, you should be entering this in your calculator. If you're behind, catch up. Next, payments per year, 12. Compoundings per year will automatically change to 12, which is pretty handy. And make sure that you are on end for your payments. All right? So these payments here, this number, I'm going to show you how to calculate that in just a second. But the reason it's negative is because every month out of your checking account, out of your money you earned, you're going to have to write a check to somebody else. That's why it's negative. Comes out of your money, goes to somebody else. Because they gave you $300,000, you got to give them $1,264.81. That's why it's negative, is because it's going to come out of your monthly paycheck, out of your bank account. All right, so let's move on to the page. This is where we could change and recalculate those payments. All right, so let's actually just show you how we can change things. Let's go to 4% interest right here. We already, because I had calculated it for you, we already knew what our payments were at 3% because, again, it was on the screen. But let's see, if we change that to 4, it does not instantly change your payments. If we want to figure out what these payments will change to, we have to go under payment, and you highlight payment. You get down there, so the cursor is blinking right on payment. And then you're going to choose alpha, and then near the bottom, right above the enter key, you see the little word solve right there. So we're going to hit alpha solve. Now, if you got stuck there and you couldn't get this number to come up, please ask the kid next to you and see if you can get some help from them to try to figure out what you're doing wrong, or raise your hand and get the teacher to help you at this point. Okay, after we do that, the new payment comes out to $1,432, and at least that's what I've got here. And I've got a little black box next to it. When you have just had the calculator figure out a number, they put a little black box here saying, I figured out this one for you. It's like, this is what you alpha solved for. Okay, so we knew all these other numbers. We knew this, we knew this, we knew this, we knew this, but we didn't know the payment, and we calculated that one with alpha, the green button, and then solve, the bottom right button. All right, just a little side note, the payment at 3% was 1264. The payment at 4% is 1432. You can see why you really would much rather have a 3% loan than a 4% loan, because it's a lot more per month. It's $167.44 more per month. That's almost enough to make a payment on a small car, or a really big payment towards a cable bill, or that kind of thing. So that would be a big difference. All right, so let's try one more scenario. By now you should be getting good enough that I can just tell you these numbers and you should be able to put them into the TVM solver and figure out how much the payments would be. You're going to borrow $12,000 to buy a boat. So change that $300,000 to $12,000. You don't have to put a comma in, and no dollar sign is necessary either. We're going to want to pay it off in 5 years, not 30 years. Nobody borrows 30 years to buy a boat. They just won't let you. They want their money back quicker than that. So we're going to go to 5 years. Now, in my research, actually, boat payments are often done over like 15 years. But anyway, we're going to do this example at 5 years. And so I hope you know that that's the N, the very top number, the big N. That's the number of payments. That's where you'd type in 5 times 12, and it would tell you that that is 60 payments. Now, boat loans have a higher interest, and so we're going to change our interest to 6%. It is true because boats aren't as good of a safe investment for the bank, and that's why they charge you more interest to borrow money towards a boat. So see if you can enter this all into the TVM solver. And again, I'd recommend pausing for just a moment here and putting that all in, making sure that you have figured out what the payments would be with this info. All right, so here's what I got. Right now I have payment of 0. What? 0 payment? I'd love that, but that's not the reality. So what we do is we highlight in here, we go on top of that with our cursor, and then go to alpha, and then go to solve, and that will solve and tell us what our payment should be. And our payment on this turns out to be $231.99 for our loan for our boat. The future value is 0 because you want this loan to be paid off in the future. The present value is positive $12,000 because you borrowed that from the bank. They say, here's $12,000, go buy your boat. All right. I hope you got the same answer as I did. If you didn't, I hope you look through and see which number you must have made different. Otherwise, it would have come out properly. So now we're going to change to an investment. And an investment, it's the same exact app. Okay, so we're just going to, instead of having our present value be some big amount of money that we're borrowing, we're going to start with a present value of $1,000. It's like you saved up a bunch of money from mowing lawns and babysitting, and however you got this money together, you've got $1,000. So take that present value, type it in under PV, and you would not want a minus here. You are going to be depositing that into the investment, and you're going to use the negative key. I hope you get there's a difference. At the bottom of the calculator is a little minus key, and then up in the add, subtract, multiply, and divide, there's a minus key there too, but they are different. One of them is the minus, and the one way down at the bottom of your calculator, that is the negative key. And we want to use that negative key at the bottom of your calculator. Okay? So this 1,000 is going to come out of our checking account and go into this new investment. So we should say that it's a negative 1,000. This minus here really should be on this, negative 1,000. Okay? Now you're going to invest in stocks, which have averaged about 7% over the last 50 years. And so that's going to be our I for like investment income is the way I'd like to think of it. The calculator is going to think of it as interest. It's technically not interest, but it's where we should put it. All right, next, we're going to deposit a payment of negative 100, as in it's coming out of our checking account every month. And so negative 100 is going to go into this investment. And so it's our money, but it's our money that's separate, and it's a separate account that's for just for saving up this money. That's why it's a minus, because it's coming out of your daily or monthly income that you've earned. All right, so now we want to know what's the future value. So you're going to do what I call alpha solve. That's those two buttons, alpha and solve. and figure out the future value in 24 months. By now, if you're pretty quick at this, you've already typed it in, and let's see if you got the right thing. 24 months at 7%, $1,000 to start with. Payments going into it are $100 a month. Then the future value would be this. And this little black box here means I can tell that the calculator calculated the future value. So you got there, you hit alpha solve. Remember, you can't have a blank spot, so you'd have to put a 0 there to hold the place until you actually have the calculator calculate it or alpha solve it. Again, we use 12 for monthly payments in those two spots. And what's the difference here? Well, this would be, what if you saved up this money for 480 months? That's a lot longer. I figure that's kind of about how long that you probably will work before you someday retire. So this is like what it could grow to over a lifetime of savings. All right, I hope you've learned something about the TVM solver, and that's all I got for you for today.